morning grade 8, so we're starting geometry. It's going to be quite tough with me not being in the classroom to do this on the board, because geometry is got to do with me working out questions with you on the board. Geometry is more you watching me do diagrams off my projector, off the board, and explaining to you. So we're going to take time with geometry. We're not going to rush through it, so please tell your parents, or if the parents are watching, please parents, there's going to be small little exercises, and we're going to consolidate on exercises rather than doing your algebra like we're doing in algebra and integers, and that we can give big questions, a lot of questions, and you could work them out over time, a lot of time, you know. Geometry is going to frighten you. You need to write down what I do in my videos. Take them down in your books. You have to write them down. So you have to go and write in your books. If you don't write in your books, it's not going to get stored into your memory, into your brains. All right, you have to do this. If you go and look in your books, it's very taxing. It becomes overwhelming. My kids that are go a little bit beyond the other kids and work by themselves, you won't find it taxing, but I really believe that 70% of the kids, when they do geometry at the start, even in grade 9, it's very taxing and it's actually daunting. So please take some time. You go read in that book, it's going to really scare you. I'm going to show you, explain to you very watered down the first two concepts in geometry. It'll seem like it's nothing compared to what's in the textbook. But as you get the grasp of it from how I explain it, the textbook will explain it in more detail and more accurately. I'm just going to go straight to solving what we need to solve. So, very hard to explain. In the classroom, it's so nice. I just go on the board and I just draw. If I was in the classroom this morning with you kids, I would have just gone on the board and I would have just drawn complementary and supplementary angles all on the board. And I would have drilled it for the first 10 minutes just talking to you, and you would have got it. So, let's try and see. First time doing this on a video. Let's see if you can get this. But please embrace when I explain it now. Don't just sit there and I don't know what's going on. Then you're not going to know. Okay, so embrace it. All right. So first thing before you come to the first thing. Adjacent means, if I say an adjacent angle. So we're dealing with angles, straight line. We're actually doing straight line geometry. And the first piece on straight line geometry you have to know is we're going to work at unknown angles within a diagram. So it's going to be an angle X or an angle Y, and there's about 8 reasons in straight line geometry that you have to know off by heart that will help you solve the question. So when you start a question, there will be at the end, I like telling you all this just to scare you, at the end there will be like about 15 reasons how to solve a figure, to find unknown angles. You have to pick the right ones to solve the question. So the first two, I'm building now, I'm giving you the first two. So you have to know these two, because tomorrow I'm going to do, if I might redo this lesson tomorrow, but let's just say we're at school. The next lesson we're going to do another 2 more. The next lesson another 2 more. Then I revise all 6. The next lesson do another 2 more. Another 2 more. Another 2 more. Revise the 12 or 14 that we've done. So if you're not working with me, you're going to get left behind. So the first two we're going to touch on is adjacent supplementary and adjacent complementary angles. Complementary first. So sorry if I rush. You know me, when I get excited, I get going. My wife's telling me to slow down. The first straight line piece of straight line geometry we're going to deal with is adjacent complementary angles. Now adjacent means that it's an angle that's separated by a common vertex, a line between 2 pieces. Okay, so if I've got a line like this, here's my arms along, and I've got a line that's coming down here, and it's hit a point, and the 2 angles sit between those 2 points. I've got some drawings for you. Then those 2 are adjacent to one another. Okay. Complementary means that the 2 angles add up to 90 degrees. They complement each other to make 90. So, all other jargon aside, your notes in your books that I'll show you, when I say complementary, what angle do you think of? 90 degrees. And then when I get to supplementary means 180. So all you need to know is complementary is 90 degrees, supplementary is 180 degrees. That's all you need to know for now. So let's have a look at some of my notes. So now, kids, I want you to take these notes down in your book. So this is the first example I've done on the board, and I'd ask you to write this down. So do you all know this symbol over here? This symbol means it's a right angle. It means the angle is 90. So if you don't know that's a right angle, you draw this up, you take an arrow, you put an arrow off, and you say right angle. All right, so you should have known this from grade 7. In grade 7, they should have told you that that symbol means right angle. Now, I've drawn a line. Remember, these are not drawn to scale, grade 8s. So it's not drawn. So now don't go now and want to take a protractor and measure this as 50. It's not drawn to scale. Because sometimes I will draw a right angle figure and I'll do that and I'll call this 60. And then you guys are going to say, but so that can't be 60 because if that's 90, surely 60 should be a little bit more larger. Yeah, we're not drawing to scale. Okay. So these two angles, I've called it angle X and angle Y. They are adjacent to each other because they are separated by this line. Okay, they're next to each other and they're separated by this line. So they are complementing each other. Why are they complementing each other? Because 50 plus 40 gives me 90. So we call these adjacent complementary angles. Add up to 90 degrees. Now, in geometry, we can also abbreviate reasons. So another thing in geometry that you're going to see, it's going to be quite taxing for you grade 8s, is when you solve something, we're going to be solving all your questions using equations. Hence we did equations now, finished equations. But whenever in geometry, whenever you finish a statement or you have worked something out, which you kids are now trying to figure out what do you mean work out, you'll see now, you have to have a reason. So in geometry, there's always going to be a mark allocation for calculations and a mark allocation for reasons. You can't say things in geometry without giving reasons. So reasons are important. So if a question's out of 4 marks, it's going to be 2 marks for working it out and 2 marks for reasons. Alright, so let's come back to the question. So let's have a look at our first question here. This is my first example. You take this, draw this example out in your books. It says calculate angle X. Alright, so the way I worked out X, I saw it was a right angle. So I knew that this has to be, so in your brain, some of you would have just done this by inspection, but you can't do it by inspection because that's 90 and that's 70. How much is X? Well, X will be 90 minus 70, which will be 20 degrees. All right, so here's my calculation, but you have to put this, you're going to get a mark for that and a mark for that because you can't just write that down without putting a reason. X is 90. You have to tell the examiner or the teacher, why is it 90 minus 70? Because, and you say because. Now, can you see how I've abbreviated? I didn't write the whole adjacent complementary angles add up to 90 degrees. You're allowed to abbreviate. So this is the fun part, I think, of geometry. You can abbreviate. So now I just put ADJ, full stop, COM, full stop. And now here, this means angles. Let me show you how so if instead of writing angles, maybe you'll take this down now. Instead of writing angles, you can abbreviate it and it looks like this. So it's not an L. It's like a, the greater than or smaller than signs. Not really, but so it's like an angle. That means angles. So it's angles and an apostrophe S. Okay, that's a symbol for angles.
It's like a triangle with the outer side.
Yeah, or a triangle without a side. So that's for angles. So now in the class, I would have written down that, and you'd all looked at me and said, "Sir, what?" And I just said, "Guys, it means angles." And you would look confused again and say, "Guys, it just means angles." And after the 5th time telling you, "Guys, it's just an angle," you would have all go, "Oh, okay, sir, it's just an angle." It's just an abbreviation for angle. So this is just the abbreviation for this over here, for this reasoning over here, adjacent complementary. My wife loves her, yes, all you girls in my class, Ella, and who else uses it? All you kids that use your, what's these things called? Highlighters. I never use highlighters. Okay, so that's the reason for adjacent complementary. Let's look at another example. Second example. Now, it's given you 2x and x. Okay, so there's a little, and you're going to do this next. I'm teaching my grade 9s, and the grade 9s have to. I asked them this question, and they forgot this. Whenever you ask the geometry question, and there's no numbers given, meaning there's no angles given, there's just x's, you make an equation. You always make an equation as is. But you'll see, I've got more examples coming up. I've got a lot of examples. It's going to be quite a long lesson. You always make an equation. Okay, that's why we did equations of. So let's have a look at this. So, is this not a right angle? So in geometry, when you see a right angle, you think of complementary angles. Okay? But now it's 2x and x. And so what now, sir? Well, if I add this angle and this angle up, how much does it give me? It has to give me how much? 90 degrees. So what I've done is I said 2x plus x gives me 90. Adjacent complementary. Because they are separated by this line that's joined to a vertex here. So that's a mark. If I add that up, it gives me 3x is equal to 90. Now, from your equations that we just did last week and the week before, what am I solving for? I'm solving for x. So what must I divide out here? I must divide by 3. If I divide by 3 on this side, I divide by 3 on that side. The 3's will cancel, so I'm left with x. 3 goes into 90, how many times? 30 times. Then if I put this back into here, so let's substitute. We did substitute. If I put the x back in here, what's 2 times 30? 2 times 30 is 60 degrees. And what did we say x was? X was 30. So what's 60 and 30? How much does it make? It makes 90 degrees. Therefore, we know this question is right. Okay, so that's complementary angles. Now, we're going to see this exercise. There's 7 questions in this exercise. I'm going to do supplementary now with you. But there's 7 questions. And they're very hard. I want you to try them. And you work through them. I'll give you the answers. And then I'm going to most probably, I've already spoken to Mr. Bruer already last night. I'm going to give you another questions, easier ones, just to calm the nerves. But you're looking for complementary and supplementary. That's all you're looking for in this exercise. Okay. Complementary, what are you thinking of complementary? A right angle. Complementary, 2 angles that add up to 90 degrees. Are you with me? Complementary, right angle. Next to each other, add up to 90. Now I would have made you say this in the classroom, and if you didn't say it, I would have demerited you, and you would have carried on saying that in the class, yeah? Complementary, 90 degrees. Complementary, 90 degrees. Complementary, 90 degrees. And then all the rolling eyes, because you think you're cool, you know what I'm saying? And then I ask you in the lesson what's complementary, you say, Okay, complementary, 90, add up. Okay, let's do supplementary. Supplementary are 2 angles on a straight line that add up to 180 degrees. So complementary are 2 that add up to 90. Supplementary are 2 that add up to 180 degrees. You can also call it angles on a straight line. I don't really care. I mark it right. People have watched a video, other teachers watch a video that won't even say to me, but there's difference between complementary, Jason, supplementary and angles on a straight line. Now they both add up to 180 degrees. So now, when you work out your equation, you're going to say equal to 90 or equal to 180? Equal to 180, because it's supplementary. Supplementary 180. So let's go.
Charging.
Alright, just want to put my phone on charge, people. Forgive me. My crew is not on top form today. Alright, so let's look at adjacent supplementary. So you're going to take us down in your books now. You're going to write here adjacent supplementary. Sorry, kids, I just have to tell Kirsten, or I have to take over here. So, adjacent supplementary angles add up to 180 degrees. Alright, so you have to write this down in your books. And I've given you an example. Do you see you got a straight line here? And this straight line over here, are 2 angles that are next to each other that add up to 180 degrees. Alright, so we have to work this out. So if I say x plus 60 equals 180 degrees, because they must add up, but they're on a straight line. So you're always going to get either a straight line or you're going to get a right angle. Right angle, complementary. Straight line, supplementary. Okay, so this angle over here, these two must add up to 180 degrees. So there are when x plus 60 equals 180, and then I put your adjacent supplementary angles. Can you see? Do you know how to write the symbol for angles? Oh, what am I doing? I'm sorry, there's someone at my house here, so I'm thinking about them. Angles. That's how you write angles. Doesn't have to be now. Some of you will say, but sir, this line now is more straighter. It looks like an L now. No, it's just a symbol. means an angle because it's an angle. You know when you do an angle, that's an angle. See that angle? It's an angle. So that's so adjacent supplementary angles. Okay, so I've said that this angle, whatever it is, plus 60 must give me 180 because they are on a straight line. So what do? I take the 60 over, remember equations, and when the 60 was plus 60, when it goes over, it becomes minus 60, and then it's 120 degrees. So x equal to 120 degrees. So you normally get about 1, 2, 3 marks for this thing. Adjacent supplementary. Now you'll be like, hey, so that's so easy. Yes, it is very easy. Geometry is buds, but it scares you because you've never done this before. Geometry is very straightforward. All you have to do is like, you know your times tables? Once you know your times tables off by heart, you get full marks for it. Then you kids that don't know your times tables are freaking out. Remember, and I hope you're watching my videos, I'm going to be checking now. Remember I asked you for your first 3 cubes? Hey, I'm asking you all of this. What's the first 3 cubes, Jared? What's the first 3 cubes? Yoyama? What's the first 3 cubes? Ruan? What's the first 3 cubes? Joshua? The first 3 cubes, you need to know them. 1 cube, 2 cube, 3 cube, 4 cube, 5 cube. But then, you have the kid that listens to me and knows them, they'll off by heart. They'll tell me it. Gabby, what's the first 3 cubes? Tamron, what's the first 3 cubes? You need to know them off by heart. Now, here we go. That's a new... Now, oh, sir, I hate maths. I'm not good at maths. I suck at maths. But now, here we go. What's the first 2 reasons in straight line geometry? Now, some of you are sitting there. But some of you are thinking, now, what's the first 2 reasons in geometry I've taught you? Adjacent, complementary, adjacent, supplementary. Once you know them off by heart, you get full marks and everyone thinks you're a maths buff. But all you've done is learn them off by heart. But you'll learn how to WhatsApp. You'll learn how to Facebook, Instagram. Currently, Facebook is too old now, Bali. Instagram, you'll learn how to TikTok videos. You'll learn how to do all these things off by heart overnight, and then you're the best at it. But for your maths, people just learn these concepts off by heart. You've got no excuse. When I get back to school, I can't just see you suckers. When you get back to school, I'm going to ask you your rules. And if you know your rules, I'll keep you in a break. You need to know your rules, people. And you know that I'm a cool teacher. But you need to know these things off by heart. And if you don't know them, then you fail your maths. And then when you fail the maths, everyone's like, everyone's got a problem. No one's got a problem. You're lazy. Learn your concepts off by heart. Adjacent, complementary, 2 angles next to each other that add up to 90 degrees. Adjacent, supplementary, they're on a straight line. So they have to add up to 180. So I make an equation that equals 180. So let's have a look at our next example. You need to take these things down. These are 2 angles. They're on a straight line. So what is it? Adjacent, supplementary. Okay. You'll see in your workbook sometimes they'll say angles on a straight line. I'm going to write that reason down because you'll freak out when you see it. Adjacent, supplementary, and angles on a straight line, I don't care which one you use. If people want to moan at me and tell me they're 2 different reasons, that's fine, but you still get the same answer. You still equal 180. So let's look here. So it's this angle x out of it, plus 140 must equal how much? It's on a straight line. It's on a straight line. So how much must it add up to? 90 degrees. 180. Now you can't just tell me this. What must I say when I write this down? Adjacent supplementary angles. You'll get 1 mark for that. And probably 1 mark for that. Now solve this equation. You should be able to solve it. Take it 140 over. So I minus 140. In grade 9, I don't do this all of this for you, but I'll do it in grade 8. 180 minus 140. So angle x is equal to 40 degrees. 3 marks. Let's look at the next one. Now everyone freaks out. Wheels fall off. Because now they've put a triangle there. Like, what's going on here? Look here. Is that not a straight line adjacent supplementary here? And on this side, is that not adjacent supplementary on that side? So this is all they're going to do in geometry. Try and freak you out by drawing things. Making the picture look bigger and then like, what must I do now? No, what must you do? You must look for the 2 reasons. Adjacent sub, adjacent comp for now. Tomorrow it's going to be vertically opposite and angles around a point with these 2. So it's going to be a picture with 4 reasons you have to know. And if you know your reasons, you can work this out. this is the reason why I'm talking to my kids today. So people watching this video, you won't know who's on. For example, this is why Brian loves this stuff. Let me tell you why Brian loves this stuff. Because now Brian's listening to me. He's probably gone ahead of me anyway. We know how Brian is. He's probably gone to study this stuff already. But that's Brian. It's his nature. It's what he does. But now Brian will go, okay, so there's two reasons that you know. So it's telling me there's two reasons. I'm going to learn these reasons off by heart. So